After that panel discussion, the conclusion that we can draw upon is, while the reporting is institutional, the responsibility is individual. Quickly, let's move on to the next session for today. Amrit Kaal. The years ahead of us till our 100th Independence Day is crucial, where we need to shoulder the responsibility to nurture new responsibilities, new possibilities, realize new resolutions, and through collective efforts and teamwork, take the country forward. Good governance is the path towards our vision for 2047. Quickly, may I request Debashish Setapati sir to welcome the panelists for the next session today. To begin with, CA Raj Chalva sir, I request you to kindly step on the dais. May I request Narendra Gupta sir to kindly welcome. I guess even he's absent. I quickly request Deepak Jain sir to kindly step up and welcome the panelists for the next session. Sir, he's the Central Council member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India.
Anita, please.
Joint Chavez sir, he's cost and management accountant, and he's worked with organizations like World Bank and World Health Organization with 25 years of experience.
Raju. Anita, please. Anita.
So to join the panel, he's a Central Council member of ICSI.
Anita, please. The chair आगे कर दो. बस. Hi sir, please. Anita, please. इधर. Yes. Okay.
Company Secretary and Chief Compliance Officer of Indigo Airlines, India's leading aviation company. He's also a fellow member of ICSI.
Anita, please. Yes, sir.
The panel ends, sir, and the topic that we are going to discuss this time is good governance in Amrit Kaal for a developed India at 2047. May I also request Chavi ma'am to join the panel?
आइए ना प्लीज. अब तो वैसे ही महिला रिजर्वेशन हो गया था.
Please. Yes. Okay.
Governance in Amrit Kaal for a developed India. We all know, my dear friends, that government, our dear Prime Minister has given us a term, Amrit Kaal. This is a period in which we have to act, to do our act, to reach our target, our goal of becoming a developed country, nation by 2047. And this Amrit Kaal period requires that we, all of us, put our efforts in promoting good governance in our organizations. So panelists will be discussing how good governance is relevant, and if I would like to be more philosophical in this presentation, that you know friends, India is a spiritual country, and Mahabharata, we all, कितनी बार हम सब लोगों ने महाभारत देखा होगा. यहाँ पर कोई ऐसा है जिसने महाभारत नहीं देखा अभी तक? We all know about Mahabharata. We all know about Gita. Am I right? हमने कितने उपदेश सुने हैं, कितनी बार गीता को सुना है, कितनी बार गीता का पाठ सुना है. But ऐसा होता है कई बार, many times it happens that वो सब चीजें घर तक ही लिमिट रह जाती है. जब अपने ऑफिस में आते हैं, अपने चेयर पे बैठते हैं, बोर्ड रूम में होते हैं, तो कई बार उसको भूल जाते हैं, धर्मा को भूल जाते हैं. So good governance is related to धर्मा. और जब धर्मा को याद रखें कि धर्मा क्या है, युधिष्ठिर को धर्मराज युधिष्ठिर, you know, when they were in exile for 14 years, Draupadi used to tease him daily. That आप 5 पांडव हैं, why don't you raise an army and take back your kingdom? क्यों जंगल में आप लोग 14 years हैं? And what he replied, being a धर्मराज युधिष्ठिर, that मैंने वचन दिया है महाराज को कि हम लोग 14 years का नहीं था, 14 years, 14 years we will be here, and then we will definitely do what is required after 14 years. So we need to learn dharma, and the panelists, I will be requesting that they will be guiding us on this topic. Yes. मैंने जैसे अभी कहा कि हम लोग घरों में धर्म के बारे में, स्पिरिचुअलिटी के बारे में, पूजा पाठ ये सब बहुत करते हैं, और कई बार कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर में आप सुनते हैं कि there are various ups and downs, irregularities and all. तो वहाँ पर हम क्यों भूल जाते हैं? Because as per one research, 98% of the Indians are religious. तो हम रिलीजियस हैं, धर्म को फॉलो करते हैं, तो वहाँ पर आके हम ये सब चीज़ें क्यों भूल जाते हैं? Any idea, मैडम, would like to say?
Good morning, everyone.
कुछ कंपनीज में इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर हैं, तो हमें बताइए इससे अच्छा पैनलिस्ट कौन होगा?
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Jain. It's a real privilege to be part of this conference because here it's making us think. You know, I would say in a different way about things that we have been doing. Like, for example, as Mr. Jain said, you know, I am an independent director. It's become mandatory for women to be independent. You know, there has to be a woman independent director on the board of companies. And other than that, because I have a finance background, I've been an ex-banker, and I'm now a woman entrepreneur also since the last 7 years. So, having seen you know, I'm an employer, I have been an employee, I am on the board. And, you know, the change that I'm seeing in the last 30 odd years, 3 decades of my career, is very significant. And Mr. Jain, as you said, while we are all very, I would say, you know, religious, or maybe we are very culturally enriched people. So, but somewhere I think there was always the difference between our professional life and our personal lives. So what we were driving or what we were seeing, you know, in our personal space, you know, was somewhere very different from our professional space. And I think what has happened is, when we are talking of Amrit Kal, it's a very, very powerful thing that, you know, in 2021, when Prime Minister Modi, you know, he announced it on the, you know, it was on 15th August, you know, when the 75th Independence Day Amrit Mahotsav, and to drive it in a manner with specific time frame, you know, where we will finally, he said that it is the golden era. The golden era where India is already transforming and will transform into a completely different nation. We all are witness to it, we have been witness to it, the transformation in the last 10 odd years, and it will continue because we are driving it through a specific time frame, specific agenda, specific guidelines, specific framework. So the way I'm seeing this corporate governance, I mean, I am, you know, I haven't prepared, I was not to be part of this, but as it's become mandatory to have a woman independent director, I think, so to bring that balance here, so I will just say this in very simple words, that this entire framework, so the framework is needed, the guidance is needed, the focus is needed. We always, as a corporate, you know, as I said, you know, I have been part, I have seen it all, you know, in various roles, and, you know, sitting on the board, being the CEO of my own company, and all of it. So, what I'm seeing is, this is making it very specific. We are all working towards it. It is highlighting the fact that inclusive development, green growth, you know, I realized that when the Prime Minister Modi said it, and even our finance minister repeats it, every time she, delivers the budget for the year, she always talks of the Amrit Kal and, in Amrit Kal, this is what we propose to do. There is one very important element also here, which is the youth part. I realize that whenever we are talking, we are very, very rich in one resource, which is our youth. So what we are driving today, if we are driving it till the year 2047, the youth of today who are in the age bracket of 20 to 25, I am just taking an average, at that time will be the decision makers. Not that they are not decision makers today, because in the startup world, when I ventured out and had a startup about 7.5 years back, I was amongst the people, I used to say, I have brought the grey element into the startup space, where also the average age is 25 odd. So this youth, so when we are talking of Amrit Kal, all these, the direction and the guidance that we are providing today through corporate governance, through the rules, through the focus areas, is actually tomorrow, or rather already bringing about the change. The transformation is visible in many areas. When we talk digital transformation, is carrying India to a completely different level.
Madam, I will request to keep it short, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak. But it's a topic very close to my heart.
Yes,
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Is why we have included you. We are here. We will in the next round. You can speak more if you want.
No, thank you.
So I will request now Mr. C. A. Raj Chawla, how leadership is helpful in good governance. I mean, is it depend on leadership? Is it depend on our laws, that we follow our laws and follow good governance, or it depends on leadership, good leadership? Yes, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Deepak Jain. Definitely, it depends on the leadership. हमने अपने प्रधानमंत्री जी को देखा है, उन्होंने सबसे पहला अपना जो स्लोगन दिया, सबका साथ, सबका विकास और सबका विश्वास. So this is the leadership who leads the nation for the growth. So when our leadership is strong, then everything is possible. We have seen yesterday in the Rajya Sabha, the women reservation bill was passed, and I congratulate all the women's present here. मुझे कहना नहीं चाहिए, न्यूज़पेपर में भी था कि कोई फीमेल कहती है कि मेरे हस्बैंड का ये सपना था. अरे भाई, आपकी भी तो सरकार रही है 10 साल, 50 साल, 30 साल. सपना है तो पूरा करो ना. आपके लिए आपका सपना आप नहीं पूरा कर रहे, दूसरा पूरा कर रहा है. तो it depends upon the leadership only. So if our leaders are strong, definitely our nation will be strong.
Sir, thank you for your crisp reply. I appreciate. So I would now request C.S. Venkataramana. I mean, in the inaugural session when we heard him, he was speaking of something spiritual. आप लोग कुछ उपनिषद को रेफर कर रहे थे. So sir, how उपनिषद हमने इतना पढ़ा है, सबने पढ़ा है यहाँ पे उपनिषद, कुछ ने पढ़ा है, कुछ ने नहीं पढ़ा है. तो वो अभी तक हमारे डीएनए में क्यों नहीं गया है उपनिषद? हम लोग मतलब इंडिया क्यों नहीं एक एग्जाम्पल क्रिएट करें गुड गवर्नेंस में? एंड इफ यू सी जो करप्शन इंडेक्स है वो इंडिया का ज़्यादा अच्छा नहीं है. सो हाउ यू वुड लाइक टू गाइड द मासेस? यहाँ से हम लोग इस प्लेटफॉर्म से इस मैसेज को स्प्रेड करें कि उपनिषद, महाभारत, इन सबको हम अपनाएं अपने डे टू डे कल्चर में, पर्सनल लाइफ में, प्रोफेशनल लाइफ में.
Thank you very much, sir. Actually, the Modi ji's message that Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that is one world and one nation. So this says that, you know, whatever we learned from our ancient days, the education system today, what we have in schoolings, that is where we are missing. That is what I found. Because the students from schooling level and parenting, because the influence on the people, character and behavior, anybody's character and behavior will start from the parenting and schooling. So once the education system at schooling level, it improves this kind of our ethical, moral education system improves in the schooling level, because these people only will become entrepreneurs tomorrow. They will become the leaders tomorrow. They will become politicians tomorrow. So the basic level education should inculcate the syllabus, curriculum of what we have actually from our ancient days, what our Upanishads, Vedas. It need not be Hindu, any other thing. It may be any religious, because all religious will speak only one thing, that it's a welfare of the people. So whatever our religion we follow, whatever ethical values we have in our religious system, that should be implanted in the minds of the children first. After that, as a corporate professionals, when we are here, as long as we are talking about laws and laws only, it always leads to compliance. Then compliance leads cost. And so what we need to do is, it is not that, you know, the entrepreneurs should understand it is a law to comply. It is the ethical, moral values to inculcate and follow. The governance is a much bigger terminology. That is why we have ESG. It is not ESC, compliance. It is not a compliance, it is governance. So the governance will come from the ethical, moral, behavioral understanding and the following. So action speaks louder than the words. So people should start, you know, implementing. Self-governance is always the best thing, mechanism. For that, we need a better education system. This is what I feel, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot for again a crisp reply. Now I will move to CMA Navneet Jainji. Sir, if you can guide us that whether transparency in the business, in the corporate sector, in the government organization, transparency helps in good governance?
Thank you, Rebecca, for asking this specific question. In fact, if we see that transparency is the main thing by way of which you see world comes to know about the particular organization. I will just quote, I will just specify that UN in 2004 published a report to Cares Bills, like that. One report was there, wherein it invited, you can say, approximately 18 investor companies who were investing world over, and they were asked to just come up and discuss on certain parameters which they would like to see and where they would like to invest the companies. If you see, one concept is emerging right now, ESG investing. ESG investing is right now, you can say, talk of the town, because the organizations which are having very good ESG policies, the companies are going towards them, they are investing. How many, you can say that 18 or 19 companies, they were constituting about 60 to 80% of the investments worldwide. So you can see the way it is not only the compliances which are there, by the which transparency is coming into picture. It is by there. It is a top-down approach now which is happening, not the bottom-up approach that only government is pushing. It is the investors who are pushing that you please become transparent, only then we will be coming to you. I'll quote you one live example with my organization. We being a professional, we keep on conducting various type of audits. The cost audit is one among them. So we were likely to mention one thing in the report that, okay, this thing is not apparently available or like that. And I was really surprised to see the answer coming from the, you can say, CFO. Sorry, Namiti, we will improve upon the system. Do not write it, give us the management letter. We will work upon that. Because what is happening, it is a normal thing which I am writing. No. If our investors come to know about that, our share prices will fall. You just see the way the organizations are thinking about this transparency. Apart from that, I have something more to say about this thing. Whatever my earlier speaker said, that we need to inculcate this thing from the very young persons, the persons who are right now entering into the corporate world or like that. Catch them young, it is a normal phrase. So if we start, you can say the way Deepak ji has really done a wonderful job by organizing this type of seminar. If we keep on organizing this type of seminars, making persons aware of the things, these transparency things will start coming up automatically. So this is what I want to say, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And my friend Sanjay Gupta, आप एक listed company में company secretary हैं. So Sanjay, would you like to say something about the importance of participatory decision making in the organizations? Yes, please. Participatory decision making. I mean, contribution.
Hello. Deepak, very right question. And I think this is fundamental to the governance. All the decisions which are taken, they must be taken with the participation of all the stakeholders which are relevant to that decision making. And organization we have seen, if the decisions are taken in arbitrary manner, this will not be accepted. This can lead to non-acceptance of that. But if you include all the people who are stakeholders who are concerned with the decision will always be taken in the best interest of the organization. And this applies to government also. In the government also you see that basically in India for economic development, the policy making of the government is very, very important. And if the government encourages the habit of taking all the decisions with the participation of not only the people who are the government, but all the people, this maybe I keep on going to say, the people who are in the opposition also, and if they are relevant people who can provide a very important input, if their views are also taken, then this can lead to better decision making. Secondly, government has the habit of forming different committees sometimes for taking important decisions. What happens in all those committees, all the people who can provide any input, who have any experience, and they can take a better decision. So these will always lead to a better decision making. So say participatory decision making is very, very important. So this is answer to Deepak your question. But basically one thing I wanted to say, I cannot hold you back. This is not I am not answering the question. Because this topic is very, very relevant. Good governance in Amrit Kaal can lead to better development. I recall 2 lines of an old film song which are very, very relevant. जहाँ डाल डाल पे सोने की चिड़िया करती है बसेरा, वो भारत देश है मेरा, वो भारत देश है मेरा. जहाँ सत्य अहिंसा और धर्म का पग लगता डेरा, वो भारत देश है मेरा. In these 2 lines, the good governance and the role of dharma is very well explained. And this is basically Amrit Kaal. We belong to a glorious India, where India's contribution to the GDP of the world, I heard this was more than 20%. India was the hub of education, and the cultures and so many things of India, they were well known in the world. But what happened in the British Kaal? India was looted, and this came to a stage when we got independence. India had a lot to do. We have completed 75 years, and Prime Minister very clearly defined that this is the golden era. In last 25 years, when we reach 100 years in 2047, India should reach a stage which actually belongs. A developed India, prosperity for all, inclusive India, and all these things. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are running short of time. Lunch से पहले एक session और है. मेरे ख्याल से हम लोग इसको we will take 1 or 2 questions. Yes, 2 questions only, please. Yes, yeah. I appreciate a young student. Yes, please. माइक दे दीजिए उनको प्लीज, कोई किसी के पास माइक हो तो. I appreciate that a very young.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to all of you delegates. So all of you have mentioned several times regarding the importance of contribution of youth towards this similar bettering the conditions of environment. And being a youth coming from a middle class family in India, I have observed that what has clearly given the gap into implementation of better climatic conditions or taking up the responsibility of making the environment better has been the frustration of poor life conditions within the youth. So if you are already struggling with getting better jobs, doing better things in your life, and as our chief guest also mentioned regarding how it is going to be a better GDP in our country, but not the really good income sectors. We are not hoping for better incomes in our country. How are we going to fulfill these gaps on the ground level, which is being created by the frustration, due to the frustration coming up inside due to less incomes in our country? And how are we going to work on the sustainability for getting? So as you mentioned regarding Gita and other things that we have all we have studied, but why they are not into our DNA? They are into our DNA, but I guess because of all these frustrations, we are not able to implement it on.
Yes, we got your answer. Yeah, I appreciate. So, what's your name?
Nisha Mangwani.
Yes, Nisha. So, I do agree that whenever I say to someone that we need to take care of sustainability, environment, society, good governance, we need to be spiritual in our activities. तो कई बार क्वेश्चन आता है कि यार we have so many problems in the life. जॉब की फ्रस्ट्रेशन है, जॉब ठीक नहीं चल रहा, पहले जॉब नहीं मिल रहा, मिल जाए तो परेशानी, फिर सक्सेस, कोई आप एग्जाम्स पास कर रहे हैं वो आपको पास करना है, तो वी हैव सो मेनी सफरिंग्स, प्रॉब्लम्स इन द लाइफ. हम घर देखें, सस्टेनेबिलिटी देखें, CSR देखें. सो फ्रेंड्स, उसका एक ही आंसर है कि हमको अपने आप को डेवलप तो करना पड़ेगा. हमको अपने आप को इस सक्षम तो बनाना पड़ेगा सबसे पहले कि हम अपने आप को डेवलप करें और फिर हमारी जो ड्यूटी है सोसाइटी के प्रति वो हम पूरा करें. गौतम बुद्धा हैज सेड दैट हर एक इंसान को अपने माइंड को अपने बस में रखना है, दैट वी शुड नॉट बी डेस्परेट फॉर एनीथिंग इन लाइफ. वी शुड हैव ए कॉन्फिडेंस कि दिस गोल, अगर मेरा रास्ता सही है, इफ आई एम टेकिंग केयर ऑफ द नेचर, टेकिंग केयर ऑफ द एनवायरनमेंट, टेकिंग केयर ऑफ द सोसाइटी, डेफिनेटली I will get my reward in the life. Gautam Buddha, Mahatma Gandhi, Rabindranath Tagore, they all tell us in their teachings that every human beings need to take care of the planet and the society. And they are the renowned names. So we need to develop our thoughts, अपने आप को सक्षम बनाएं और फिर environment, society सबके बारे में ध्यान रखें. जब हम सबका ध्यान रखते हैं तो अपना ध्यान भी हो जाता है. कई बार ऐसा लगे ना कि लाइफ में कुछ ठीक नहीं चल रहा, तो अपने को भूल के सोसाइटी के लिए, एनवायरनमेंट के लिए करना शुरू कर दो. धीरे धीरे यू विल सी कि सब ठीक हो जाएगा. Am I right? Yes, चावला साहब काफ़ी इन चीज़ों पे अच्छा बोल देते हैं, पर हमको टाइम का ध्यान रखना है.
Yes, sure. I am also from a very humble background, but you know chartered accountancy course. हमारे चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट का कोर्स करने में पता कितने पैसे लगते हैं? टोटल 75,000 रुपीज़. और इंस्टीट्यूट आपको 75,000 के अगेंस्ट में 1.5 लाख रुपए स्टाइपेंड दिलाता है. जैसे अभी हमारे दीपक भाई ने कहा कि आप अपने आप को ग्रो कीजिए. कंपनी सेक्रेटरी, कोस्ट अकाउंटेंसी, मैंने तो सारी की है. मैंने CA, CS, CMA, LLB, MBA, वीसा, मीका, PhD, CPO, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, बीकॉम ऑनर्स. मेरे घर में कोई ग्रेजुएट भी नहीं था. कहने का मतलब है आप अपने आप को ग्रो कीजिए, ठीक है. मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी. हमारे CA में एक बड़ी अच्छी कहावत है कि CA करने में पैसे नहीं लगते, जवानी लगती है. आप एक बार लगा के तो देखिए. और लास्ट रिप्लाई हमारे दीपक भाई ने जो कहा कि अपने थॉट को पॉजिटिव रखें, आपको एक बहुत अच्छी बात बताता हूँ लाइफ की कि वॉच योर थॉट दैट बिकम योर वर्ड, वॉच योर वर्ड दैट बिकम योर एक्शन, watch your action that become your habit, watch your habit that become your character, and watch your character that becomes your destiny. If your thoughts are positive, your destiny definitely will be positive. So watch your thought only.
Very well said, sir. Very well said. And this is the truth. कभी भी लाइफ में ऐसा लगे कि लाइफ में बहुत ज़्यादा परेशानी है, डिस्टर्बेंस है, तो उन चीज़ों को इग्नोर करके फोकस माना रखें. जिस चीज़ पे हम अपना फोकस रखते हैं, वो चीज़ ग्रो करती है. If you focus on your grievances, your sufferings, your problems, that will grow. And if you focus on good acts, that good acts will grow ultimately for you also. So हम ज़्यादा इस सेशन में ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं लेंगे. Last question. Yes,
One question,
last
sir.
question.
I am Dr. Mukul Jain. I am a professor and a trainer. Currently, I am also an independent director on the board of a company. Regarding governance, governance I have found is questionable in many companies, basically. So therefore, it's very essential, for this governance part, that government is focusing on that. Even in educational institutions, governance is questionable nowadays. So my question is that, in corporate companies, there are independent directors. So some of the independent directors do not speak, or they are, since past 5 years, 6 years, you have become a new independent directors. They are not speaking anything. So how to say, because companies are just, filling up the formalities, for example, the remuneration of the directors, related party transactions, but actually, they are getting more salaries, to directors. So how to, counter that as a independent director in the company when other people are not speaking, and you are seeing, that overall companies' market capitalization is not increasing because of that. The share price is not increasing, but the promoters are not interested in that. Some of the promoters in lower grade companies. So just your thoughts.
Okay, I will request any of the panelists, Sanjay, very crisp answer, very crisp. We are running short of the time.
Because I was just thinking that this question for me only. You rightly said that this is the hard reality, that this is happening in the many corporate rooms. The people who take a independent director seat, they are not doing justice to their job. Basically, the kind of participation they should have at the boardroom, because they owe a responsibility not only to the company but to the entire society. Because when the law came, that certain number of people, maybe 1/3 or 1/2 as the case may be, have to independent directors. This was due to all the stakeholders, maybe shareholders who have invested into that company. In fact, if independent directors are not doing their job, I think this is not the right thing to do. But I want to say one thing. If you talk of well-governed companies, very good companies, like for example, Infosys is a live example, many Tata Group companies, and this feeling is coming more and more in different companies. When they make selection of the people as independent directors, they do extensive research. No person will enter the boardroom until the person has a very, very sound track record. And when that thing happens, see the quality of the discussion of the boardroom. This is tremendous. I have seen in my own company also, independent directors, put the directors to the management on their toes actually. We find it so difficult. But ultimately this leads to higher performance. We provide more and more information. The decisions are taken in a proper manner, and that is the key in fact. So basically this is the duty of companies to induct the right quality of skills for being appointed as an independent director. If that is the case, the decision will always be taken in the best interest of the company and of the society as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Please, we are running short of time. Yes, Dr. Elizabeth, please come forward. Let us clap for our panelists for a thoughtful discussions. Yes, thank you. We can have some discussion in the lunch time. We have 1 hour lunch time है आपका. सबके सब panelists यहीं पर हैं हमारे में. Yes, come forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this enlightening session. Very quickly, we learned about the significance of leadership, transparency, and a better education system. And all of these things put together, there will be Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, and it will lead to eventually Sabka Vikas. Quickly, I'd like to request Mr. Narendra Gupta to felicitate. But if they are joined together to form a big lake, the atmosphere is cool. And there is universal benefit. India is a country of forests. Therefore, such values as inclusion. Anurag Pratap sir.
Because I do understand we are already at 1 o'clock, which is supposed to be the lunch time. However, this is the session on social sustainability that you will be bearing with for a few minutes going forward, and we will make sure that it is worth your time. The wait that you are having to go for lunch, we'll make sure that it is worth your time. So thank you again for being patient. And a very warm welcome again to our panelists here. It's a hot topic, social sustainability, so to say, but we have, even the bottles of water are gone now, so I don't know how we're going to keep it cool. But talking about social sustainability, which has become a strategic directive these days, which formerly used to be called social development, but now we have a fancy term which is interchangeably used with ethical sustainability, or so to say social sustainability, as to how we empower our citizens in order to create resilient and peaceful communities or societies, so to say. So my first question, without sharing my limited knowledge, my first question to our distinguished panelist, Mr. Rajiv Williams, my first question to you is, how do we tie up the concept of social sustainability into the environmental aspect of ESG, or under the entire umbrella of sustainability, as we say? How does social sustainability fit in with the environmental part of sustainability?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me today. This buzzword of ESG has taken off the last 2 years or 3 years in India. But internationally, this was on for a very long time. And I think the mismatch took place on our very topic itself that we are going to be talking about on diversity, equity and inclusion. If we understood these three very important words, what does it imply? How can we really work it out towards making an inclusive growth? We've been talking about inclusivity for a very long time, but we have not understood the very basic structure of the socio-cultural differences which have been emerging, and how we've been able to, mesh it with the economics of today. Diversity, we've been thinking about whether there's gender equality or gender equity. But we have not thought about how we are going to be discussing and taking these things forward in our research and the data collection that we are doing, which are unfortunately in the macroeconomics, when we talk about it, it's lacking. And that's the challenge which I think all of us here who are sitting must understand. How we can work towards getting the proper data of these differences that have come up and giving in the equity space the opportunity and the outcomes, being visible in our corporations, in our organizations. I was with the Jindal Group after exiting the army for 17 years. So I've had a lot of experience in this frame of CSR. I've spoken across the world, including the United Nations, on certain issues, but the data points that we have are unfortunately a bit of a miss. Especially when we're talking about the ESG framework as related to social equity in our country. That's the reason why I asked that question. Global standards is something which we have to really think about, not just work on the mandatory and the compliance pieces. And inclusion will only take place if we are sensitive towards this very aspect of environment, of the opportunities, of the governance. And governance is crucial, and in today's context, it's even more important after the G20. And we'll talk about it a little later too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rajiv Williams. Mr. Vinod Pandey, gender inequality in itself, according to statistics published by the United Nations, is supposed to bring in a loss, a virtual loss of $160 trillion. $160 trillion, which is way beyond the size of the entire global economy. So how do you think a country like India, not just India, many other countries forming patriarchal societies in the history, how do we progress in order to make sure we can capitalize on this gap which exists of $160 trillion globally from the gender equity or equality, so to say, that we can bring in?
Well, I think UN has given some data, $1 trillion or something, that in case gender equality is not there, that in case gender equality comes, then that will be the loss to the world. I really don't believe it. I think if we have gender equality and if we have women on every panel, like even in the world, mostly in India, there is a climate change. And who are the most affected? It is the women. Because in the villages, if you see, in the rural areas, if you see, is the women who are working in agriculture. They are, and if there is heat wave, there is a storm, there is anything, you will see women working still in the agriculture field, getting water on their heads in a big. So we need equality among women, and once we get equality within men and women, gender equality is there, I think the economy will perhaps grow. Instead of housewives sitting at home in the rural areas, because urban areas, many of the women are working and they are giving back to the society, they are giving back to the family. But rural areas, women rarely work except at home. So I think gender equality is important, and once that comes, I think instead of losing trillions of dollars, I think the world will be making trillions of dollars. Economy will go up by trillions of dollars. That's my view.
Absolutely. It was about making $160 trillion if there were gender.
Sure. Why I'm saying it because in Jindal we had done a very important project. Mind the steel industry or hard industries. Very few women come on board, right? We started the Disha project in collaboration with the United Nations and ZMTO, based on Oslo, of empowering the women, giving them an opportunity to work with steel industry, stainless steel. That program did brilliantly from a challenge of the women coming forward because of their family backgrounds, especially Haryana, how it is. But afterwards it was an overwhelming response. And today, we have women working alongside our male counterparts in the furnaces, in the areas of steel melting shops. And it's an amazing story, and the growth has definitely been impacted hugely. Profit margins have increased. And more importantly, it's not the profit, the third P of the sustainability issue. It is the first P, the people. If you give them equality, respect, the men folk will give them space. There were no women in our steel industry earlier. So what you have said is absolutely right. It will increase. Thank you.
In fact, I was in State Bank for 35 years, and we had the first woman chairman, Arundhati Bhattacharya, in around 2013. And one more, just to prove my point, our moderator is here.
Absolutely, that's what my question was. That was a virtual loss, supposedly, of $160 trillion if women, not just women, LGBTQ plus, so to say, that we do not talk very freely about, or rather we hesitate to still talk about it, even though there is a lot of content available on the internet, so we do read it, but when it comes to talking face to face, we, at times, some of us still do shy away from talking about such things. But yes, bringing in equality and inclusion, so to say, is supposed to help the third P also of the triple bottom line used to be a term in the previous days. Now it's the quadruple bottom line, as they say. Mr. Asim, for you, in the beginning of the session, we applauded the effort of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, on including the African Union to G20, making it G21. So, majority speaking, we have this conception that African Union is the poor part of the world, or it is the underdeveloped part of the world. I have grown up in Africa. My childhood has been there, and still that is the place I call home, so to say. It is in no way poor. They are the richest part of the world in terms of the resources. What is missing is the efficient management and utilization of those resources by the citizens, which has caused this kind of a reputation or an image that they hold in the world. So I was talking about the effort on a global scale, initiative of our Prime Minister and the government on the whole. But what is happening in our own backyard, in our own country? Are we anywhere close to inclusivity, as we call it? Diversity, okay, we all say it's a diverse panel, it's a diverse audience. But is that diversity included also? What do you think, Mr. Asim? What is happening in our own backyard when we are talking on the global scale?
देखिए क्या है कि जब भी बात आती है इंक्लूजन की, सबसे पहली गलती जो हम करते हैं, जो भी थोड़ी देर पहले हुई, कि हम महिलाओं की बात करते करते एकदम LGBT के ऊपर चले जाते हैं। वो गलती है मेरे हिसाब से, क्योंकि जब जो तमाम जो एक जेंडर जो कि 50% ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन है, you have kept them at bay for more than 2,000, 3,000 or 4,000 years. पहले वो you have to prioritize in a country which is still far from being called developed. You have to prioritize and say कि पहले women और फिर हम उस पर भी बात करेंगे। ऐसा नहीं कि LGBTQ को कहीं छोड़ देंगे, लेकिन आप उस सोसाइटी पे कैसे विश्वास कर लेते हो जो कहता है कि नहीं वुमेन तो बाद में बात करेंगे, पहले LGBTQ। इसका कोई सिलसिला नहीं बनता। There is no chronology to it. So I would say it's a new form of patriarchy. Whenever you say women, they'll talk about LGBTQ. वो एक quotation पढ़ा था मैंने कुछ दिन पहले कि if you educate a man, you are educating an individual. If you are educating a woman, you are educating the family. ये भी patriarchy है। Women पे pressure क्यों है भाई कि आप पूरी family को पढ़ाओ? Men पे तो नहीं, आपने कहा men ने तो कर ली, वो अब चाहे नशेबाजी करे या कहीं पे भी कुछ भी करे, उसके ऊपर कुछ कोई बैगेज नहीं। वुमेन पे बैगेज है कि नहीं, अब आपने पढ़ लिया है, आपके ऊपर पैसे लगे हैं, आपके ऊपर रिसोर्स लगा है, अब आप पूरी फैमिली को पढ़ाओगे। क्यों? बैगेज मेन पे क्यों नहीं? वो तो सालों से पढ़ते आ रहे हैं। वुमेन के से दूर ले जाई गई एजुकेशन। तो मेरे ख्याल से इसका आंसर आप एक, वी आर फार फ्रॉम इंक्लूजन, बट देयर आर समिट्स लाइक दीज in which we are at least talking about inclusion. जब तक वो महिला जो गांव में नई सरपंच बनी, अभी सुबह सुबह तालियां बजी कि लोकसभा में इंक्लूजन हो गया है, वुमेन का बहुत अच्छी बात, लेकिन 33% रिजर्वेशन ऑलरेडी है रूरल एरियाज में। वहाँ पे कितनी महिलाएं जनगण मन गा रही हैं? कितनी महिलाएं वहाँ पे जनगण मन जाके गा रही हैं? बहुत कम, बहुत कम। और वो ये वही आदमी बात बता सकता है जो कि रूरल एरियाज में जिसने काम किया है। वो ये बताएगा कि वहाँ पे वुमेन जाके साइन भी नहीं कर पा रही है, क्या अंगूठे लग रहे हैं। सो अगर अंगूठा लगना मेरे लिए इंक्लूजन है, एटलीस्ट वो आ रही हैं, वो देख रही हैं 4 पेपर, वो साइन कर रही हैं, उनको लग रहा है कि अच्छा मैं ये भी कर सकती हूँ, शायद वो अगली बार इलेक्ट हो गई तो और अच्छा करेंगे। तो वी आर फार फ्रॉम इंक्लूजन, बट एटलीस्ट दैट डिबेट, द कॉनोटेशन हैज स्टार्टेड, सो दैट इज व्हाट आई लाइक। आई लुक एट द पॉजिटिव्स आल्सो।
Great, Asi. Great point. Thank God somebody can think differently. Got this.
I'm a rural development school.
Hence the unique perspective. And if I start building up on that, then the debate can turn really hot, because we are given, or rather we are tasked with the so-called responsibility, because we have the capability. जिसके पास capability होगी, आप उन्हें ही task दिया जाएगा, right? You won't declare somebody as the managing director of the organization if you do not feel that that particular person does not have the credentials or the capability to make things work or make things run, right? This is just to, close it on a sweeter note as such. But Mr. Rajiv Williams, what do you think as our country in specific? I'm speaking about India right now. Where is it that we can start from where we are in order to move to the next level in bringing social equity and inclusion to the core?
I think e-governance is very critical for public participation and social inclusion, which is a very good step. And we heard about digital empowerment, etc. in the morning. And there's a lot of talk of how to scale it up and take it to many places. This is a platform of e-governance, which I think will bring a lot of socio-cultural demography into the mainstream. And that will give them an opportunity to actually be part of the markets, be part of the space for research and development, be part of governance at what we are talking about, which Jasim just alluded to, is something which is of interest for all of us, and see, especially those in the area of digital economy and digital empowerment, and companies like Aziz Premji Foundation and Infosys should reach out to the unreached.
Mr. Vinod Pandey, how about the democratization of the views of the people as such? They think about something, but how freely are they able to speak in a country like ours when it comes to the corporate world?
Okay, frankly, I think in India, everyone, it's just a matter of perception, I think. Because in India, everyone speaks freely. And all of us have WhatsApp groups. And I have different groups, which are pro-government, which are anti-government, which are pro-society, which are anti-country, everything. So everyone speaks very, very freely and nothing really happens. So I think as far as freedom of expression is concerned, thankfully India from the very beginning, we have it, and I'm sure that we'll continue to have it because it is a democracy and the government that is selected by us. In case freedom of expression or freedom of any thought or anything is not there, I'm not going to vote for that government, nor I think anybody else will. So I think that will continue, it is there, and it will continue for a long time, as long as we are a democracy. But in case we are not, which I know we will never be, we will reach that stage, so we'll always be a democracy, so freedom of expression.
Mr. Asin, coming to the freedom of expression, as Mr. Vinod Pandey mentioned, that he was quite positive on the note. But coming to the corporate in specific, do you feel or have you seen that people are able to voice their opinions and their suggestions as freely as it should be?
No, I think the more you work in a corporate, the more you become a yes man. जो भी आपके सीनियर ने बोला yes. So the problem here is that before having a freedom of expression, you should have a freedom of thinking. आप सोच ही स्वतंत्र नहीं पा रहे हो, तो फिर बोलोगे क्या? और वो सोच आपकी तभी मार दी जाती है जब आप ईमेल में लिख देते हो touch base, we will get back to you, was this for me? तो यहाँ पे ही सोच को, क्योंकि तमाम लोग इनोवेशन के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, बट वो रिपीटेशन कर रहे हैं. दिस इज रिपीटेशन के बाद इनोवेशन, कि अच्छा रिबन वहाँ पे यूं लगा था तो हमने यूं लगा दिया. सो व्हाइल इन अ व्हेन यू सो फॉर इनोवेशन इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि जब आप एक बोर्ड रूम में या एक राउंड टेबल में बैठे हो तो वहाँ पे युवा भी बैठे हो. युवा लेकर आएंगे अपने न्यू आइडियाज, दे बिकॉज दे डोंट हैव अ बैगेज ऑफ फेलिंग. एंड इट इज़ नाउ द पीपल हु आर इन द मैनेजर एंड द सीनियर मैनेजर पोजिशन जो कि वो बता सके कि नहीं ये इस चीज़ को थोड़ा सा ऐसे ट्विक करके करोगे तो इट विल फॉल परफेक्टली. एंड दैट इज़ वेयर द प्रॉब्लम लाइज कि वो उस लेवल की डायरेक्शन नहीं मिल रही है. एक चीज़ मैं और ऑन द टेबल लाना चाहूँगा वाइल इन द टॉपिक, जो आज का टॉपिक है उसमें सोशल गवर्नेंस है, सोशल इंक्लूजन है. आई थिंक क्योंकि जिस तरीके की ऑडियंस बैठी है, आई थिंक इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू ब्रिंग इन द सोशल ऑडिट पार्ट ऑफ इट. क्योंकि जब तक आप सोशल गवर्नेंस की बात तब तक नहीं कर सकते जब तक उसमें सोशल ऑडिट नहीं होगा. एंड सोशल ऑडिट इज एन एक्सट्रीमली इम्पॉर्टेंट एंड एक्सट्रीमली गुड इंक्लूजन, बिकॉज आप 3 साल के प्रोजेक्ट करने के बाद चौथे साल प्रोजेक्ट तभी कर पाओगे when you have shown the organization or shown the funder that we have a good audit mechanism and we have achieved some of our goals, if not all the goals that we set in the initial part of it.
Makes sense. So when he was talking about thinking freely, so I was just reminded of one of the incidents. If I have your permission to share it for 30-40 seconds, please. At the age of 22, I was a special advisor to the CEO of a business conglomerate, and we would have our monthly meetings. Every month he would fly down from the UK, and then the entire board of directors would sit. I used to be the only woman. At the age of 22, with people around me whose experience was way more than my age, so forget about thinking freely, even sitting freely was, it was something that required courage. Just to sit there and look in the eyes of the people. Now, I spoke one of the things, as I'm into the habit of speaking my heart out, I spoke one of the things that was discussed with one of the companies of the entire group. And then after which got the CEO very furious, of course, and then things happened, many people had to resign. And post that meeting, I was told by one of the directors, Madam, हर चीज़ बोलने की नहीं होती है. हर चीज़ बोलने की नहीं होती है. Okay, I may have been right, I may have been wrong. Again, as Mr. Vinod Pandey says, it's a matter of perspective. But the idea is, the expectations that you have from the other party, whether they are an individual or a corporate or whosoever they are in a way governed by what is the level of social diversity and inclusion wherever we are. With that note, this is a huge topic, as we all know, we can go on discussing, but with that note, I would like to conclude the session, which cannot happen without your questions. So please feel free to bring up any questions that you might have, because we have our panelists here, and I could not ask them as many questions as I wanted, so now I rely on you for asking any questions, doubts, clarifications, or any stories that you might have to share. We're here to learn from you.
Yeah, just one point that you mentioned about 22 years back. Yes, 22 years back, that was the state of affairs in most of the corporates. Like even when I was in the state bank, I remember if as a junior officer I had to go and meet the chairman, then I had to take my boss's permission. But last around 2013-14, when Madam Arundhati Bhattacharya was there, all we had to do, send a slip inside for the PS, and if she's free, she'll call you immediately. So that, of course, has changed over the years, I think.
Thanks for sharing that. Any questions?
So I would like to ask a question. I read somewhere sometime, and always remember when we talk of developed India. I read somewhere that what is the vision of developed India? Is that when the fruit of development reaches the last citizen in the remotest part of the country. That's the real development. So in that, this topic is very relevant, and I think mostly we discuss about the gender inequality, other things. But I think this is a much deeper thing, because there are many divides in the country, and the social inclusion really means when we have to take all the sections of society, across all divides, whether based on the caste or on the basis of religion, or divides between the haves and haves not, or SC, ST, whatever things. Basically, how that goal is to be achieved, I think maybe we can throw some light on that also.
Yeah, Mr.
The question is actually a bit vague. Sorry. The reason is why I'm saying is, there is polity, there is governance, which flows down from the government. And that's exactly what I think they keep debating in the Parliament houses. As a corporate leader, or as a leader from outside the corporate, it's very hard to give you a full answer of what you just stated in a short span of time. But to cut the story short, I think it's a question of reaching out to the communities through corporate social responsibility, whether it is in a geography A or geography B. Once you link up with the people, and you can bring them out and empower them through education, through giving them the platform to speak. That's the way, when you see a smile on the face of a woman in Orissa who's never come out, standing up in front of you, smiling and talking, is inclusion, is the joy that you can see. That is true, actually engaging with people in the remotest parts of the country individually.
Very well, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Rajiv Williams. Anyone else would like to add something?
Hello, sir.
See, I think times in India have also changed. I remember when my mother, when I was born, and I was just about 5-6 years old, whatever memory goes. I mean, when my mother used to come out, when an elder uncle used to come, she always used to have a hunger. So that was the time that India faced, even in cities. But nowadays, but even later, I mean, when I grew up, I never saw that my mother did that. And nowadays, of course, nothing. Our wives or probably our generation also are wearing pants and t-shirts. So there is a change, definite change in India. And I'm sure equality is there. If it is not there, it will be there very, very soon.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
I have a question, ma'am. So, my name is Rohit Kumar. I'm from Himachal Pradesh. I'm pursuing my MBA from the New Delhi Institute of Management. So, my question is from all of you. What is the role of the corporate social responsibility in the addressing emerging challenges such as climate change and artificial intelligence? And how can as a management student, there's a question that got in my mind, like how can companies use CSR to manage risk and build resilience in the, in the module and module, like the framework of the company, how they can use the corporate social responsibility as the tool to manage the risk of the.
I'll take the first part of your question relating to climate change. All of us are in Delhi, and this is the season September, October, and maybe a little November, when we are, we can hardly breathe. And why is that? Because of the farmers in Punjab who are burning the stubble. So there is a climate change there. But why are they burning the stubble? Do I blame them? No, I don't. Why? They are burning the stubble because of a change in law by the government. It was in 2009, that the law changed that you have to sow the seeds of paddy. Instead of April, May, you have to do it in June, July, when the rainy season starts, because Punjab is a rain deficient, water deficient state. So now, for the next crop, they have just about 15 days left for sowing wheat. So what do? They just burn their stubble. You just need a matchstick, 5 liters of petrol, and an acre is gone within 15 days, and you are ready for the next crop. So that is what I am saying about climate change. So what did we do as a CSR activity? We partnered with an NGO, and we have now given them certain machinery. They are called happy seeder, rotavator, and things like that, which cuts the stubble, mulches it, adds manure to it and the seed, and everything is done within just one round. Meaning within maybe one day you can cover a couple of acres of land. So that is where climate change, that is where CSR comes in handy in even preventing climate change. So I just wanted to talk about the climate change point.
Thank you for addressing that question. Mr. Anurag Pratap, we are deliberating on the topic of social sustainability, and I would like to have your views, according to you, which is the most important pillar of social sustainability or ethical sustainability in a country like ours?
Apologies for my joining a bit late. I'm in a very unique situation today. The whole schedule got delayed here. And there is another one panel going on the ground floor. So I left another panel discussing the same topic there to join here.
Taking lunch, where you have chosen the lunch?
Lunch is at Gurgaon. Because there is the third conference happening in Gurgaon.
Lucky.
So, and the fourth one is happening in Paryavan Bhavan at 5 o'clock. So that's another one. So that's the social sustainability point.
I take my visiting card, keep inviting me.
Sure, thank you. What's happening in the last 10-12 years or so, that everyone is these days started focusing hugely on social transformation, CSR, NGOs, engagement with corporate, the whole ethical sustainability or ethical social side requires three players to play. And that is NGO, corporate, community. NGOs, they don't trust government because they feel that they are not doing their job. Government, they don't trust corporate because they feel that they are not playing the game fairly. Government, they don't trust the NGOs and government, the corporate doesn't trust the NGOs and government. So you have a unique situation where three active stakeholders of the ecosystem, they don't trust each other. There's a huge amount of trust deficit which is there. The last 14-15 years, everyone is trying to bring in larger number of compliances there. Both at the corporate side, we are trying to bring in larger number of compliances and due diligence for the NGOs to manage that. So that I can be hugely sure of how you're performing. Government in their own space bringing in larger number of compliances every month or two, we will have something or else coming in the CSR FAQs for us to manage that problem. And I'm not saying that either of these three have to be brave, because all three have done their own bit to muddle the water there in all possible sense. And in that particular context, it becomes very pertinent to facilitate, promote ethical handling of initiative, programs, or coalition, or alliances, or ecosystem. You name any process that is needed there. Are we doing it? I'll say 50-50. Can we make it 100? I have a doubt. Can we go closer to ideal situation? Yes, we all can. And these are the forums which can certainly result into to make people realize and understand that there are certain gaps and we need to understand, recognize those gaps there. I was in the other panel, I was telling people, and being someone who play with the state card, somewhere we have, it's an old wine in a new bottle there, the whole ESG thing. I always tell people that your SDG was, the SDG goals or even sustainability framework, if you look at the indicator that we used to earlier file, was good enough. Because it was also capturing economic, it was also capturing social impact, it was also capturing the governance. But if we accept everything, then how the new design will come up? So kurta earlier had the China collar. Now Prime Minister has started wearing with the proper collar. So the fashion, the kurta remains kurta. But you will have a different design there. Same thing, ESG has become, the sustainability has become ESG there. CSR, in number of ways, people are calling it by different names. End of the day, everyone needs to understand that we need to stop maligning profit. We need to, in this particular country, we'll have to accept, recognize and promote people making profit there. Profit is not a bad word. You can't stand up and say that, oh, corporate big guy, oh, baki kuch ho gaya. And then stand up in front of corporate gate to get the CSR funding also. Okay. That's one. The second is that when you don't make profit, जब खाली पेट होता है ना, तो you can't be talking about ethics क्या होता है, morality क्या होती है, बाकी कुछ क्या होता है. You need to have your, I'll say, कथा में या मानस की कथा में या किसी भी सत्संग में, you will never find middle class people going in there. You'll always find either rich going there, because इनके पास घर परिवार भरा पड़ा, इनको भगवान के साथ ही सिर जुड़ना है, या गरीब going there to ask for कि मुझे भी दे दो. मिडिल क्लास पड़ा हुआ EMI को पे करने के लिए, तो उसके लिए माना जाने का टाइम नहीं है. Same with the CSR बाकी डिस्कोर्स के अंदर में, I find it very strange sometimes. We are changing these terminologies to ensure that कई जो because एक ही तरह का कपड़ा बिकता रहेगा तो दुकानों में लोग जाना बंद कर देंगे. I need to, the corporate consultant and lobbyists need to have newer product to sell them. And to sell that particular product, I need to package it in a way that you buy it there. Investors started asking questions on how you're performing on some of the parameters there. But these investors were asking questions earlier also. If you go to US market or the investors community there, the pensioner fund who are managing it, they'll say that I give a damn about your sustainability. You give me how much profit that you will bring it. Because these pensioners are living on the profit that you are bringing in there. So they are least bothered about other things there. You always have a group which is looking for profit there, a group which is looking at ethics there. As a conscious stakeholder, we'll have to find a fine balance between these two and then say that this is how one can strike and take both things together.
Very interesting.
Apologies, I feel like this.
Thank you. And we really appreciate, in as much as we acknowledge the views and the thoughts, suggestions and recommendations of our panelists here. Thank you again for being with us. And it won't have been possible without you. So a bigger thank you to everyone sitting on the other side of the table for your questions. Because we are...
May I request Mr. Jain, sir, to kindly step up and felicitate.
Thank you very much.
Anji sir, please.
May I request Manjusha ma'am,
Thank you.
May I request Rishi Garg, sir, to kindly felicitate Asim Khan, sir.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much.
And please remember, if there is anything that makes you uncomfortable, any feedback, anything that you have in mind that can help us to do things in a better way, please do come forward and share your experience. And in the second, my sincere apologies on behalf of the entire committee for starting late, but we will make up for the time lost as soon as we can. Thank you.
Anji sir, please. Okay.